February in France had not been kind to us. The skies were grey, the air was bitter, and in what can only be described as a moment of madness, we'd stripped all the insulation from our roof right as winter tightened its grip. To make matters worse, we'd uncovered a potentially hazardous mould hidden in the attic, and we were terrified that it might mean losing all of our beautiful old beams. Starved of sunlight and deep in the winter blues, we were about to come face to face with our biggest challenge yet. Welcome back to Restoring La Chartreuse. We're Hugo and Romy, and along with our cat Phoebe, we've been slowly breathing life back into this old townhouse in the southwest of France. The new year had got off to a rough start. We'd thrown ourselves straight into ripping out the old mouldy insulation from the attic. After countless trips to the tip and thoroughly destroying our car in the process, we were finally ready to turn a corner and start re-insulating the upstairs. The dream for this floor is to create 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, so we were desperate to get moving before the summer heat made the loft completely unbearable to work in. Today we were finally starting to make that dream feel real, but this old house had another surprise in store for us.
Tu as utilisé la chrono ou tu as utilisé le laser? Comment tu as aligné? So yesterday when I started with Fred and started putting in all of these suspense here, all the supports, it went terribly wrong. It was extremely difficult to work out what to do. And we spent a lot of time taking things off, putting things on, taking things off, and it was just a nightmare. So I spent a good amount of time in the evening kind of researching how best to do this, and kind of have come up with a better method for putting it in, which seems to work a bit better. The problem is we have this kind of 4 sloping roofs here, and apparently according to all of the stuff online, like having 4 sloping roofs that meet in the middle is the most difficult kind of area to insulate and also put plasterboarding in, because it's just really difficult to keep everything level. And especially we've realized that obviously our roof is really not straight at all. There's areas where it kind of collapses a little bit, areas where it goes in. Some of the beams are really not straight. So it's a really technical challenge and a nightmare to get right and getting all these supports in. And I realized I didn't actually give an explanation about what we are doing by putting in these supports. In France, this is kind of the standard approach of how you do things, is that you have these supports that jut out from the central rafters. They kind of create a little bit of a gap and a space which you can push your insulation onto, and it basically allows for the insulation to get fixed into place. And then what happens is that after you've put all of these supports in, you can put these railings in. We use metal railings here in France. In US and UK it's common to use wood, and you put all the railings across, and then you can basically fix your plasterboard to it. That's all to say that we still have a ton of these supports to put in. We've only just done this little area here, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, and so we're going to crack on with that now. Another spam call. It's like the 3rd one today. Ever since we moved to France, I've been constantly getting random dodgy calls, spam emails, spam texts from just random numbers. And I always used to wonder, how are these people getting my number? And it turns out the answer is data brokers. These are people who collect your personal data, your name, phone number, financial details, and sell it on to pretty much anyone, whether that's marketing agencies, companies, and sometimes, unfortunately, scammers. That's why we started using today's partner, Incogni. Incogni contacts over 230 data brokers on your behalf and asks them to delete your personal data. And because these brokers have a habit of relisting you, Incogni keeps on going back and doing it again. That's what makes your annual plan so much more worthwhile. The feature that sold it to me is their custom removals feature. If you search your name, phone number, email address online and find a site using your personal details, you can send that link directly to Incogni, and their privacy experts can get it removed for you without you having to do any work.
work. Honestly, it's a bit like the work we're doing up here in the attic. You don't know what's lurking behind the walls until you strip it back, and Incogni does the stripping back for you. Head to incogni.com/Chartreuse for a 60% off annual plan, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's absolutely no risk. A link in the description, and thank you very much for Incogni for sponsoring creators like us and helping us grow. Oh, I'm pretty demotivated at the moment. The putting in the suspense or the supports is just an absolute nightmare. It's super slow, and I feel like I'm not making much progress, to be honest. I thought I had some kind of system in place for putting it up a little bit faster, but the problem is just that the beams are so twisted that you can't really use a laser level, so you have to go back to the string method, but then using a string, it takes so long. Yeah, it's just really tough, to be honest, really tough. And I really haven't made much progress at all. Yeah, and I can only apologize, it's just taken too long, but it's really not great. My hands are all cut up as well because of the old roofing nails are coming through some of the boards, and it's really difficult to get the drill in, so I'm getting cut on my hands, which is really not great because I'm worried about tetanus because they're super rusty as well. So everything is going just excellently, to be honest, but I'm going to call it for the night. I can't do any more. I'm exhausted, and my mind is not functioning correctly with all these different planes of lining things up. So yeah, off to bed, I think. Well, the fun of this week just keeps on getting better. I got a call this morning from the guys who are delivering some insulation for us. We needed to get some more insulation for in between the battens up in the attic, and I ordered this from the same place last time for the insulation that we got for the cab and for upstairs, and it took like 2 or 3 weeks, so I thought I was being smart ordering it in advance, but they said they're going to deliver it next day, so I have absolutely no clue where we're going to put that insulation because we have no space in the cab upstairs, so it's going to be a nightmare, but this week is just absolutely insane. So I'm waiting here for them to come and deliver it in a massive truck, and then we're going to have to offload 3 pallets somewhere in the house. Fun times. But we managed to get that done, which was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. Just started raining, exactly the wrong moment. But we did manage a way to fit all of the insulation into our second basement area, which, as you can see, is basically full now. So this is a room we cannot use anymore, but at least it's done. A bit of a nightmare week, but we're getting through it. So in between the stop-start work on the upstairs, I'm going to be trying to tackle some improvements to the bathroom we have. The bathroom is relatively in a finished state. However, there's some finitions that we need to finesse a little bit to get to a state which we're happy with. So the first thing that's slightly not great in the bathroom is the toilet position. Sadly, when we redid the bathroom, we moved the piping for the evacuation to the left-hand side wall, and the plumber that we used to put in some of the evacuation pipes, he put it actually in the wrong place despite our designs and like giving him very specific instructions, which meant that when we tried to put in the evacuation through the piping for the toilet, we couldn't actually fit it all the way back, and it left this large exposed piping, which really isn't great looking. So in order to cancel that, what I'm going to try and do is cover the bottom piping with like a kind of box to hide all the stuff, and we're going to use the same beading and the same paint to try and keep everything looking seamless. And then behind the toilet, we're going to try and advance the wall a little bit and create a little shelf. Unfortunately, I did many simulations to try and see if I could move the piping around so I could push the toilet back a little bit more, and it's just not possible with the bend and the amount of gap that we have. And so what I want to do now is just make it look a little bit cleaner. So after that, I want to replace the light fittings and switches in here to a more cohesive brass that we have in the bedroom, which looks a lot nicer than this plastic stuff we have now. And then the final thing I'm going to do is kind of fit in some shelving behind the toilet so that we get a little bit more space for storage, etc. like that. So yeah, I'll try and work on that little by little when we have time spare from the stop-start work on the attic, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of a mini makeover of this little section of the bathroom.
There's something lovely about preserving the passing seasons in jars of homemade jam. And when grey skies settle over Bordeaux, I find myself drawn to the market, returning home with a few kilos of organic oranges. A cheerful antidote to the dreary weather. Jam making runs deep in my French family. My grandmother made jam on quite an impressive scale, and our jam cupboard was never empty. I've been using her recipe books for years now, trying to recreate some of her talent. Today I'm making marmalade, a wonderful reminder of our time living in the UK. I start by boiling whole oranges and a few lemons for several hours to soften the peel. The house fills with a most wonderful citrus scent. Once tender, I empty the fruit and cook the flesh in the same water. After a few minutes, I strain it through, leaving behind a beautiful amber liquid that becomes the base of a marmalade. I add the sliced peels and then comes the waiting, testing until the jam reaches a perfect set. Honestly, I should have probably waited a little bit longer on this one, as it ended up a little bit too runny, but still delicious. I had been looking forward to making jam in this kitchen for ages. My last batch was in our rented flat during the renovation, and I kept thinking about this kitchen we were building, all the jams, curries, pasta and cakes we would make here. So this first batch did feel rather special. What I love about jam is how it makes such a lovely casual gift, so I made little fabric covers from some Liberty fabric scraps I had been saving for years. And then finally, time to taste. Fresh butter on one baguette with homemade marmalade. So simple, but it doesn't get much better than that.
So I just picked this up from a private seller in Bordeaux. It was 10 euros. It's just a basic etagere or a basic shelf that we're going to put in the bathroom. It's seen better days though. It is not in great condition. I picked it up for just 10 euros, so I wasn't expecting it to be in amazing condition, but it's decent size, decent shape, and exactly what we were looking for. So I'm going to refinish it, restain it, and hopefully it should look a lot nicer and in keeping with the rest of the bathroom.